Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming indoors on this beautiful day and for a good cause, for Pablo Durana's West Coast premiere of No Legs, All Heart. Exactly. We're so happy that we were able to host the screening and that he's able to be here. I'm Joni Cooper. I'm the Director of Programming for DocLands. And I would just like to say a special thanks to the Jim Boyce Trust and Chris Otis for sponsoring Pablo's film. They see the value in supporting the festival, and we are so grateful for that. I would also like to thank, there were a couple of community partners involved in getting you here, and I wonder if any of you are part of that. The Challenged Athletes Foundation. All right. And Race Across America. Not many here. I know that that's, yeah, and it's a national organization, right? So don't forget to use your audience ballots after the screening to submit your favorite films. Out there, there'll be somebody collecting them in a basket. And please turn off your electronic devices. There is a short 7-minute film before Pablo's feature, but I would like to ask Pablo to come up, and he's got a few words he'd like to say as intro to personally introduce his film of note.
Thanks, Joni.
Take it away.
Hi, everyone. I feel like I know half the theaters. It's wonderful. It's really exciting to be here, and it's a big honor. I've known Joni for a while, and this is one of my favorite theaters, and I just love being able to share this film in a theater. I think it's a very big difference than watching it on your iPhone or your laptop. So I'm very grateful that you all took the time to be here, especially on such a beautiful day. I do encourage you all to stick around after the credits. Andre will be zoomed in for a Q&A. So I'd love for you guys to be there for that.
And I'm sure you'll want to meet him after you see what he goes through.
But I'll leave it at that. And I hope you guys enjoy the film.
Enjoy the ride, so they say.
Yes.
Thank you. What a feat, huh? Wow. Pablo, why don't you come on up here and join me? There he is. How about that standing ovation again, folks?
Hey, Andre.
Hey, Pablo.
Why are you in the car, Andre?
Everybody's asleep inside.
He got so used to sleeping in a van that now he can only sleep in a car.
Yeah, no, I sleep in a bed quite well. Quite well. Yeah, we have a small place up here in the mountains, and so kids are asleep, my wife's asleep, but I wanted to hop in and say hi.
Thank you for coming. You know, what I was wondering right off the bat is, at the end of this, who hurt most, you or Pablo?
Yeah, I would have thought that it would have to be me, and then realized just how hard he worked out there. I know early on he needed to take some kind of break, and as we go over Wolf's Creek's Pass, which is the sort of the Continental Divide, the high point of the race, he was trying to catch up, and then he didn't leave the van for the rest of the race after that, or sleep really. So we were both beat.
Well, I can imagine. How did it go? You know, I want to find out. I know that Pablo, you're busy on so many things, so many shoots and projects all over the world. This had to have been an extremely passion project for you. How did it all come about?
It was, first of all, I just want to say thanks to you and to DocLands and everyone for letting us be here. It's really, really special.
Our
It really means a
pleasure.
lot. And to have my friends here and be able to share this with them all.
Yeah.
This was definitely a passion project. You know, professionally, I work as a cinematographer. This is the first time I've ever directed something of this magnitude.
Yeah.
We got introduced through a mutual friend. Andre was, going to do this project that never happened, but we just stayed connected. And I honestly think I was the only camera guy that Andre knew. So he called me up about this race he wanted to do, and he thought it would be neat to film it. And I was like, sure. I'm an endurance athlete, and there's just something about Andre, and I was just intrigued. I really had no idea if this would happen or not, but it just seemed fun.
Fun. Fun for somebody. Hey, Andre.
And then when he actually qualified, I was like, oh, all right, this is actually happening. And, we got on a van.
There you
and started following.
Yeah. Well, I cannot imagine, that your crew chief and the whole team. Like, do you think you would have finished without their insistence?
It's something that I learned early from one of the early qualifyings when I just had some friends, out there joining me who really didn't have much of a clue about endurance racing or, what even they were signing up for a little 40-hour race. That's, the crew is everything, and really they're managing you, right? I'm, fairly conscious for good portions of it, and live or die by how well they're taking care of me and just taking instruction. And my job is just to pedal and hope they do a good job.
Yeah.
So it was huge to link up with Matt's, but also asking a lot of other people that had done the race, questions, learning just kind of about the psychology and the approach, why a lot of people fail, and a lot of people fail because of their crew, and all sorts of crazy things happen out there, like fights, and someone takes off with the RV and just heads home, and then that team is done. And it's a grind for everybody, and it takes a toll. And a lot of times the athlete has been getting ready and doing this kind of racing, and sometimes the crew hasn't. So it's their first experience. But my crew was amazing.
Right. Now, I want to hear from each of you what you thought was the most difficult part of this journey. Andre, what was it for you? Physical, totally physical, or mental?
Yeah, no, I think the mental part was much harder. Honestly, just sticking with it. I think, going back to the passion project from Pablo and sticking with that. My God, I think I called him in February. I was going to go qualify in May and do the race in June. And, I was like, this is 2015. And so it was a lot longer road to get there. And I think, I sort of quit, a bunch of times and just wasn't gonna, go do it. And then sort of decided that I had to try one more time. So sticking with something through to the finish, no matter how you get there, just to finish something, is worth it. So that's kind of my big takeaway, and what feels like a big accomplishment, for me, is just to decide, sort of maybe kind of I should do something, but then just actually go do it and finish.
Yeah. What a feat. And how about you, Pablo? How is it?
I think one of the hardest things was not being able to plan anything. It was a very reactive type of experience, which I love, but it's also hard because, you set up for a shot. If you miss it, you're not going to ask Andre to come back and do it again. Or you get a shot and 5 minutes later, there's an even better shot, and just kind of accepting that it's not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And also just relying on not just myself. Like I credit Andre a lot as a filmmaker. You know, we had the GoPro on his bike, and we'd give him reminders. Hey, this might be a good time to do a little diary cam. And we just had to get creative on how to tell this story because, you know, Andre's not stopping, you know, and we relied on his crew members. You know, speaking of crew members, one of my biggest, most important crew member was my sister, who's here in the audience, who drove our minivan all the way across, you know, the race. She was with me the very first time that I met Andre. So it's been a very personal family affair. Yeah. And
hi, Maria.
a quick shout out also to Karina, my fiance, who has been incredibly patient. We've been together for 7 years, which means she hasn't known me without this film because I started filming Andre 8 years ago. So she's an incredibly patient woman and has been incredibly supportive over the long hours and nights of, you know, pulling my hair in the edit room. And so I'm very
She's
grateful.
gonna find that you really are, Pablo. Start tomorrow.
That's great. You mentioned you couldn't ask Andre to do something twice. I was going to ask, did you have any rules between you on what maybe you couldn't grab, or was it just absolutely just free for all in filmmaking?
I think by then we had established a good relationship and trust. You know, what was really interesting was when we got to the end of the race, I was like, wow, this is great, but I don't really know if we have anything. You know, Andre's just such a nice guy. You know, I've seen films of people yelling and getting real emotional. You know, but Andre allowed me to record him, you know, audio, for example. We recorded him 24/7.
Yeah.
We had a microphone on his helmet. And it wasn't until afterwards when I started listening to everything, when I started watching his GoPro footage, that I started seeing something special. And I think that was just, you know, the trust that Andre had in me just to let himself be recorded, you know, without any restrictions.
Yeah.
And I was very grateful for that.
Yeah, speaking of the GoPro footage, Andre, were you surprised when you saw, like, how extremely, like, you were almost not there sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely felt that way while I was out there too. So it's not just seeing the footage that it's surprising. I mean, I know there's some state line out there where it was like night and then it was morning and I was in another state and I don't remember riding my bike for like several hours at all. But yeah, I think I can hear it in my voice. There's actually also a post-race, like at the finish line interview, you know, where they're talking about, oh, you seem so, you know, fresh and, you know, whatever else compliments they were paying me. And then I've seen the footage of it and I'm like just mumbling like a drunk. It was pretty bad. And it didn't feel so bad at the time.
Yeah. Shall we open it up to your friends for questions? Any? And thank you all for coming on such a beautiful day.
How long did you sleep when the race was over? At one time.
So my wife and I drove back the Sprinter van across the country, and I was the absolute worst co-pilot. I was taking like 5 naps a day. I think we stayed the night in the hotel. I don't know if we left the next day or one day after. Probably we were there for 2 nights, and I think they're pretty normal night's sleep. But then I was asleep in the car most of the way home, and then I just go to gas stations and grab so much candy. Like I had probably 5 kilos of sour balls on the way home. All I just wanted sugar really badly.
Eating healthily on the way home. Yeah.
No, not at all.
Not at all. There, we've got another question.
how many cameras were used, and then were you as director in the post all the time, the post production, putting it all together?
Well, we had 2 cameras. I was very fortunate to have a dear friend of mine, Dave Pearson, who's this crazy Aussie who's always up for adventure. He was, co-pilot with my sister, and they had a minivan, and, they'd zip ahead and get shots. I spent the majority of the time in the follow van. And then I'd join them every now and then to shoot the drone. But yeah, we had 3 cameramen. I would count Andre as the other camera operator. And yeah, this was my passion project. I had another friend. I had 2 editors, but I was, with them throughout the entire editing process.
You had a drone too.
Okay.
I did have a drone, yes, which crashed in West Virginia, but luckily it was, only a day till the end of the race, and I even had to swim across a river to retrieve it and swim across with it, up so it wouldn't get damaged. Well, it actually did get totaled, but yeah, there weren't too many casualties. The only other casualty was the audio recorder that Andre was wearing when he jumped into the water at the end of the race. And I was filming and just didn't want to say anything because I did not want to ruin the moment. But it was worth it, right, Andre?
It didn't cost me nothing, huh?
Yeah.
Sorry, Pablo.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, hi, Andre. You're a kick in the pants. I love your endurance. And I was just wondering, did you incur any with your wrist and your shoulder? You were worried about that. Did anything get worsened, you might say, or how do you recuperate?
Yeah, I think probably it's taken some toll on my shoulder. It's slowly getting worse and worse. Oddly, the only thing that really bothers me from the accident in the train was the one part that wasn't obvious, and it was my right shoulder. I just have a big bone spur. They call it a beard. It's growing on the rotator cuff. That sort of, I think I've had it checked some years ago, and they said it looked okay, but that's just sort of slowly wearing at the cartilage. But then my hands, a lot of cyclists will get it doing sort of these cross-continent long rides. You just have this high frequency vibration. And so my hands were pretty numb for 6 months, just sort of gradually getting better towards the fingertips. But I mean, on the day after, I couldn't feel my hands at all. I was pushing my wheelchair with my wrists because I couldn't grab anything. But all that stuff got better. And yeah, I think I came through it pretty well. I mean, to be honest, I do feel like there's some slightly loose screws. I don't think it's very good for you mentally, and there's some effects, but yeah, they were loose. They're looser, let's say.
More.
I have a question. Word on the street has it that lowest highest is happening in Europe. What's the scoop?
Yeah, tell us about the foundation.
I can't see what that sounds like. Stacy.
Yeah. Hi, buddy.
Yeah. Hi, how are you? Yeah, we're working on finalizing the plan, but the idea is that we start in Baku in Azerbaijan at the Caspian Sea and ride our bikes across to climb Mont Blanc. That should be happening in July and August of this month. Lucas, my teammate, and Mohammed is racing, so I don't know how much of it he's going to make, but we will, yes, be riding our bikes across. And actually I'm trying to think what day or month it is right now, but in 1 month, we're going to do some training in the Alps with the guides that will take us up Mont Blanc. So they wanted to see us in action before they committed to going up the mountain with us.
Can you talk a little bit about the foundation?
Yeah, so when we got back from South America, so that was the first continent that we took on. We just had an amazing experience together. We had we had a interaction with a family, just like in the middle of nowhere, this small restaurant, and then they were pulling out their camera and showing video of their niece who had been born with no arms and was singing in the camera. And I know we talked a lot about Muhammad's experience and other stories we had encountered from around the world and places that don't have this hope and optimism and support like we get in the States and some other countries. And, Muhammad had his own experience growing up in Morocco. And I've talked to organizations and people in places like, Kenya, where, not only the, economic situation makes it difficult to, support people, but also there's this deep-rooted cultural differences and stigma around people that have disabilities, and oftentimes they're just not treated as human at some point, at some level, but as citizens or expected to have any kind of independent life. So, we were talking about what we were so lucky to have, or we're championed to have some impact. And since we're going to a lot of these places as we go around the world, and we had some early support, we wanted to set up a foundation to try to help, change that. And I think we're, somewhat uniquely suited in that, a lot of these places are rural areas where it's challenging terrain, and you've seen other organizations that try to get, wheelchairs and adaptive equipment out there, but taking a very thin and wide approach. And so we wanted to do something where we go narrow and deep and really help individuals, because we may pass through and we may, send the message of our expeditions far and wide, but it's really the people in those communities, being successful themselves that I think can show what's possible with a little support. So we're finding individuals that will help with financial support, sweat equity in our network, to just really help them sort of in a longitudinal effort to pursue their dream. Yep, that's lowest highest.
Fabulous. Wow, thanks.
And as a side note, Andre's children's book is finished, beautifully hand watercolored. We have a table on the outside selling these to support his foundation. So feel free to pick one up. We have a coffee table book there as well. So get as many as you want.
Yeah, get as many. Everybody needs a copy. It's beautiful. And so we've run out of time for questions, but please don't forget to use your ballot for favorite film of the festival. And thank you, Andre, for joining us, and all the love to you and the family.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for, I really wish I could have been there in person, but thanks for letting me join this way.
We're glad you were able to make it.
Andre moved to Italy in March, so
yeah,
it was a little tricky for him to make it.
I'm in a really small village up in the mountains, and we're waiting for a place in the city, and we'll leave the mountains and go live there sometime soon, but we're having an amazing time.
Yeah.
The kids are 15 months just about, and they're awesome.
Excellent. Well done.
Thanks, Andre.
All right, good night, everybody.